Welcome everyone. We're going to be taking a quick look at the Decisions 9.6 release and some notes about that. So let's get started. First, we do have a singular breaking change, but it is related to a feature enhancement, a feature addition that we did just add. So let's get to talking about that first. The cache management for projects. So we've made some pretty exciting and radical changes to how cache management is going to work. But what that means from a breaking changes perspective is that existing cache steps will give a warning saying that you are not using a defined instance. This stems from our addition of brand new cache management steps that we will talk about in the new feature section. But for now, just know that existing cache steps will now show warnings. We do also have a minor case of a feature deprecation as well. Auth ID has been removed from the platform. There was a potential for security vulnerabilities, so it has been completely eradicated and removed. All right, on to the good stuff. Let's talk about the 9.6 new features. So we have changed the way new projects behave when you create them. In previous versions, when you created a new project, it would come with scaffolded folders like flows, rules, and forms. The reason for this, based on feedback from customers and professional services, was to help keep designer elements tidied up and organized. The idea was to have specific folders, such as the flows folder for flows and the rules folder for rules, so everything would stay neat and organized. However, this didn't quite work out as expected. For example, if you went to your flows folder, you could still create rules, forms, or pages in it. This often led to the flows folder becoming cluttered with non-flow items. Now, when you create a project, you will no longer get these default scaffolded folders. Instead, you'll see a new menu when creating a folder. This menu allows you to decide which designer elements can be created in that folder. For instance, if you want a flows folder specifically for flows, you can check that only flows are allowed as designer elements. You hit create, and then you'll have a folder with the flows icon. The only thing that you can do in it is create flows. No other elements will be allowed. This doesn't mean the folder can't house those other elements. You just need to go through a manual process to move or save other entities into it. We believe this change will help people keep their designer elements much more organized. As I mentioned, we've introduced some brand new cache management steps and a new way of handling cache at the project level. So let me walk you through it. The first important change is that the cache has been moved. It is no longer on health as it may have been before. It is now located under configuration, where you will find a cache folder. When you click on the cache folder, you will see a new dashboard with new actions. Add a cache instance, add a project cache definition. So how is it going to work? You're going to start with a definition. By creating a project cache definition, all the familiar options from before are still going to be available here. Secondly, you're going to create a cache instance. Once your definition is set, you can create a cache instance by naming it and selecting the corresponding definition. And the final part is going to be using those cache steps. So when you're using those cache steps in your project, you'll now need to specify the cache definitions it's associated with. This is done by selecting the appropriate definition in the cache step configuration. This ensures you will always know what definition you're working with, streamlining the process. Any existing cache steps will show warnings because they lack the new required field for selecting a cache definition. In fact, they don't even have that field itself. These changes open up a wide variety of new possibilities for managing your cache. We're entering a completely new cache management paradigm designed to give you more control and flexibility. Big changes in process mining. We have a new permission system. Previously, anyone could access process mining and make changes freely. Now permissions are being introduced with 3 levels of access: admin access, edit access, and view-only access. To set up these permissions, you can go into the Edit Process Mining settings under the System folder and define which group gets each level of access. This ensures that when users navigate to process mining, they can only perform actions based on the permissions you've assigned. We've also introduced a new module, the IBM DB2 ODBC module, which is going to provide access to IBM's DB2 style databases. This module functions just like a standard database integration. You're going to start by installing the module, you're then going to add the dependency to the project, and then you'll be able to create the database connection. And you'll see IBM DB2 as an available option. This streamlined process makes it easier to integrate and use DB2 databases within your projects. We're also excited to introduce a brand new Redis queue module. This is a message queue module similar to RabbitMQ and other queue systems, but designed with the power and simplicity of Redis. It's going to work just like our other existing queue modules. We've also introduced two new steps for MongoDB, the Get Collection Stats and Get Database Stats. These steps are going to allow you to easily retrieve statistics and insights about your MongoDB collections and databases. They're designed to help you better understand what's going on with your MongoDB setup. Be sure to give these a try and see how they can enhance your database monitoring and management. And that's it for new features, but we do have plenty of enhancements. We've got new tile styling options. We've added new capabilities for tile styling, allowing you to define different styles for when a tile is clicked versus when it is not clicked. So how's it going to work? On the Create Tile data step, you'll now find additional styling settings for when a tile is selected. For example, you can set the border and background for when the tile is just loaded, and then after an action like pushing data to controls or updating a report, you can define a different style. You can easily change the border to highlight it in a different color, or you can change the background to visually indicate that the tile is selected. For more advanced customization, click the Advanced Styling button. This allows you to set a CSS class for the tile and a separate selected CSS class for when the tile is clicked. This enhancement provides better end-user feedback by visually signaling interactions with tiles, making the experience more intuitive and engaging. The Accelerator App Store has also undergone a major redesign, introducing several exciting changes. Let's take a look at what's new. First, we have a new screen design. Clicking into the app now opens a revamped screen with a modernized layout. We also have additional resources for you. A new menu provides access to additional details about each accelerator, including what it does, how it works, and links to supporting resources. There's also an upgrade button for installed apps. For installed accelerators, there's now an upgrade button. This allows you to update to the latest version if changes or improvements have been made. So how upgrading is going to work is the upgrade process is going to work just like a standard import and export functionality. For example, if you installed the account registration app and the solutions team later releases updates, you'll see an install button that'll let you choose options like override, keep, original, and those sort of things. This ensures that you always have access to the latest features while maintaining control over your local implementation. Over the lifecycle of version 9, we've been redefining the action menu, focusing on improving its usability and making it more intuitive. Here's what's new. We have simplified access. The goal has been to make the context menu simpler and easier to navigate so that you can find the actions that you need quickly. We've experimented with recategorizing options, including the root header labels, and reshuffling some items around to make things more logical. This enhancement is built around project settings. So it's going to be related to the system folder and the project settings folder. You may have noticed that some of these actions have been moved to these areas for better organization. We also made changes to the editing options on a chart part. In previous versions, if you wanted to edit a chart like a bar chart or a pie chart, you would have to edit the page, click on the chart, and then choose to add or modify the chart. With this new improvement, we've simplified this process. You're going to see a pencil icon next to the chart, which is going to allow you to directly edit the source report for the chart with a single click. This improvement is especially useful for designers with designer-level access who need to make quick changes without navigating through multiple steps. With this small tweak, we're going to have a big impact and a huge quality of life improvement for charts. We've also made some changes to mappings and project auditing. In previous iterations, we had a singular report for input mapping. We have added a new report for output mapping as well. So it has been split into two reports instead of just one. Previously, mappings were displayed in a single report. Now they've been separated into inputs and outputs. This change makes it easier to read and to manage. At the top, you'll see a tile indicating the number of mappings by type, and you can click into these tiles for more detailed views. For each mapping, you can view the related flow, step, and other key details. Clicking over to the output mapping section will give you the same detailed information, but specific to output mapping. This restructuring makes it significantly easier to navigate and understand your project's mappings, improving readability and workflow efficiency. We've also made a small but useful change to the favorite section in the page designer. This favorites portion has been rearranged and reorganized. We've also introduced a new setting for data fields that are in lists. The key feature is going to be store as JSON. Under the advanced property section, you now have the option to store the list as JSON. This will also be the default option for storing complex types that were previously binary serialized. This allows you to manage the data in JSON format, enabling you to take full advantage of JSON-related functionalities. This enhancement makes working with lists and JSON much more flexible and powerful. We've also performed a UI overhaul for the data designer, and that's just going to be for the edit input section. Icons now pop out. These icons for rearranging fields and other actions now appear to the side, making them more visible and accessible. The field order adjustment, you can use the up and down arrows to easily rearrange the order of these fields. There's a delete option now clearly visible for removing fields, and you can directly define input values by typing them in the provided field. These changes are part of a broader UI overhaul that improves the organization and usability of the data designer, making it easier to manage inputs and their configurations. We have added nonce to the platform, which allows for a configurable option to prevent cross-site scripting. There's also been a change to the Azure Service Bus. It now supports OAF tokens, so you're going to have more options to connect with Azure. There's also been a change to the drop-down list form control that lets you disable typing into it. So on a form control, you used to be able to click in and start typing, but now you can disable that as a part of the properties. We've also made major updates to the reports, and especially with nested types. We've allowed easier access to child data fields. Previously, if you had a parent type with a child type, accessing the child data fields required extra work, such as dealing with SQL queries. Now, child data fields are directly accessible in the report, making it much easier to work with nested types. This update eliminates the hassle of working with nested data, making it much more straightforward to include child fields in your reports. We've also given you the option to hide actions for a single entity. If you have an action that you don't want to show for a single entity, you can check the Hide Action for Single Entity checkbox. When selected, the action will not appear when right-clicking a single entity. However, when you click 2 or more entities, the action will be available for use. This is going to give you more control over visibility of actions, ensuring they only appear when multiple entities are selected. We also have a new setting for padding on edges of tiles that's going to allow you to have better control and placement using tiles. We've also increased the sensitive areas to get variables into your text editor and the workspace. So in previous iterations, you may have had to aim a little bit more directly. Now you can grab anywhere on the row and drag and drop into that editor those variables. Another very, very big one. We've added the ability to edit, delete, and add columns to a report at runtime. This feature, originally introduced in version 6, has been reintroduced in version 9.6, and it allows you to make changes to reports live without going into the report editor. These changes will persist per user, so it will not affect other viewers of the report. There's some key features here. When enabled, you can edit, which is make changes to existing columns, delete, remove unwanted columns, or add, insert new columns. Any modifications made during the runtime persist even after closing and reopening the report. For example, if you add or remove columns, the changes will remain when you run the report again. You'll see options like the edit icon, the remove option, and a menu to add a column via the 3 dots in the interface. So now users can modify reports in real time, which simplifies workflows and avoids the need for constant report redesigns. This is going to give you more flexibility in managing your reports without requiring you to access the designer. We've also have the Kafka module update, which is a role-based access control authentication. This is going to provide us enhanced security by controlling access based on roles rather than users. You can manage permissions more efficiently and ensure that only users with the proper roles can perform certain actions. As users' roles change, their access levels automatically adjust without requiring manual updates to permissions. This update is going to improve how access to the Kafka module is controlled, making it more aligned with role-based security processes. We also have a new type of flow constant that has been added, the secured constant type. How's it work? Similar to the password constant, the secured constant allows you to set a value, like a secret or encrypted information, and instead of displaying the constant value as text or dots for passwords, it shows encrypted text whenever it's viewed elsewhere. and that's going to provide us with enhanced security. So this value is going to remain hidden from users or systems accessing the constant, providing an extra layer of protection for sensitive data. A major upgrade has also been made to the post flow behavior. The previous limitation was the maximum file size for post flows was limited to 30 megabytes. The new 30 megabyte limit has been removed, and the only limits now are based on your system resources. And finally, the AWS Lambda Steps upgrade. We have two upgrades for AWS Lambda Steps, the Run Lambda Function step and the Run Lambda Function with Data step. And the new feature is going to be a timeout input that has been added, allowing you to set a timeout value for the Lambda function. This helps prevent errors by ensuring that functions do not run indefinitely. So that is what I have for you for the Decisions 9.6 release. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to training@decisions.com or support@decisions.com. Thank you very much.